evening, this is Rizwan and you're watching the Indian Weekender at 5. The big news and headlines from today are: a total of 5 new cases have been reported in the last 3 days. 1 this afternoon, 3 on Sunday, July 19th and 1 on Saturday, July 18th. Today's case is of a man in his 40s who arrived in the country last Wednesday from Mexico, flying via Los Angeles. He tested positive following day 3 surveillance testing and has been transferred along with his family to a quarantine facility in Auckland. On Sunday, 3 people were reported, 2 in Waikato and 1 in Christchurch. The first case is a man in his 30s who arrived in New Zealand on 14 July from Afghanistan flying via Doha. The second is also a man in his 30s who arrived in New Zealand on 14 July from Pakistan, flying via Dubai. The third case is a woman in her 70s who arrived in New Zealand on 30th June from India. She was already in quarantine in Christchurch after a family member tested positive on day 3 of testing. The woman remains in quarantine. Saturday's case is a man in his 50s who arrived in New Zealand on July 12th from Central Africa via Tanzania, Doha and Brisbane. It has now been 80 days since community transmission was reported. The number of active cases in New Zealand is now 26 and the total number of confirmed cases of COVID-19 is 1,204. The Human Rights Commission is urging people in New Zealand to give no voice to racism as it launches a new campaign featuring celebrated filmmaker Taika Waititi. Based on the real-life experiences of racism in this country, the campaign aims to raise awareness of racism behavior and the harm caused to those on the receiving end of it. To bring the reality of racism to light, the campaign is using an online interactive Voice of Racism website that relays a range of racist comments and actions alongside the inner thoughts and feelings of people experiencing those comments and actions. In raising awareness of the harm caused by racism, the campaign is also intended to spark discussion about how racism affects people's fair and equal access to health, employment, justice, housing, and education. Visit the website www.voiceofracism.co.nz to witness the campaign yourself. Finance Minister Grant Robertson has said the government will keep the remaining 14 billion in its COVID recovery fund aside for a rainy day. Robertson made the announcement to media after the weekly cabinet meeting alongside Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, who has also confirmed cabinet would grant $30,000 to Mayoral Relief Fund for Northland after flooding in the region. At the May budget, there were just over 20.2 billion left unallocated to give the government room to keep spending on COVID response and recovery. Robertson said some of that had since been spent on the likes of extending the wage subsidy scheme and the health sector, with about 3 billion committed to ongoing spending on health, the border and economic recovery. So these were the top news and headlines for this week. For more updates, visit our website iwk.co.nz. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and YouTube. Thank you for watching and I'll be back tomorrow on Indian Weekender at 5. Till then, try safe and have a good night.